Hello, and welcome to another episode of eBay Scavengers. This is episode number 94 on ebayscavengers.com. I'm here with Jay. I'm Ryan.
That was a weird pause.
I was waiting for you to say something.
Hi.
You start.
It's like we're like a morning show.
Welcome to the morning zoo.
Okay. This is how was your week, but really it's how was our week.
How was our week?
Again, it's always good to go back and just look at how your week went, just so you can see things went well or good or bad, and how you can improve those things. That's what we always do. Like this week, we actually had quite a few items sell that have only been up for a week or two.
Right. I've been listing a lot. And several things have sold that I've listed in the last couple weeks, the last month.
And I guess we just bring that up because it's been a conversation that we've had on the blog where we're really stressing the idea of when we list things, we don't expect to sell it for a year. And really, we just sell that because I just feel like there's a lot of stress among people about if something doesn't sell, it's within a couple weeks or a month, they get real stressed out, like they have to cut the prices and try and like lowball people, and just many things do sell right away. But every time we list something, we just have to say we don't mind if it takes a year to sell, because listing it and keeping it up at a make offer for us, I think, is 3 to 5 cents a listing, but it could be up to 10 cents depending on your subscription. So if it stays up for a month, I mean, it's not going to cost you more than $1 to keep it up. You know?
So to us, it's worth it.
Yeah.
To wait. Like we're saying, sometimes you don't wait. I mean, I listed some things that sold overnight. That's just how it went.
Yeah. I find like if we will sit down and list 20 things, we'll normally sell 2 of those things really quickly.
Yeah.
It's within a week.
And who knows why? It's just the right person was looking for it right then, you know?
Who knows? An interesting thing, I actually bought a pair of shoes on eBay.
Yes.
It's this week. And, you know, we buy some things on eBay. We just don't buy a lot of things, period, anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to actually go through the process as a buyer. I found a pair of really nice, a workout shoes.
Sneakers. They're like New Balance or something?
Yeah, I mean, they're basically new, and I bought them for $20, which was the lowest price on eBay, and it was great. And the guy shipped it right away.
Which is very good seller. Thank you.
Right. It's like it's printed a label. It's within an hour or two of us buying it.
Yeah, I think we bought it in the evening, so it was actually when I was printing my labels. So it was kind of cool to see another seller like shipping our item when I was shipping items. So that was fun.
Although it is interesting, and this is just me being a buyer, is that, you know, I bought it for $20, this pair of shoes, and the shipping was $8. And
it was like $8.50.
And I'm like, oh my God, that's so expensive.
And it was from the next state over. So that's why we were kind of like, that was a little bit expensive. But I guess this is a question I have for some people. Does everybody get the eBay shipping discount, or do you have to be on like a certain standing? Because maybe they just were like, that's how much it costs. It's $8. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I mean, I was fine with it. It's just, it is amazing when you buy a cheap item, but the shipping, it will be as much as the item itself, you know?
But so it was $28 total, and those are like a $50 pair of shoes. So
I think they're more like $75 or $80.
Okay, so
yeah, I mean,
it's
a great deal.
Still a great deal, but
shout out to that guy. Or girl.
So we sold another book on Amazon.
Yep.
A little book. I think I sold it for like $20.
Yeah, and we got it for free, so we probably made, at least $10 on that book. It's our 4th book we've sold on Amazon. But
yeah, so far so good.
But again, we don't have that many books it's listed, so just like with eBay, it all depends on volume. If we were to really go all in and list a lot of books, I'm sure we would sell more. But it's an
experiment.
Interesting experiment.
Yeah. So last week we had talked about someone who wanted money back on a jacket, but it sounded like she didn't really want to return it. And we thought this person's kind of a scammer.
Well, she contacted us right before its 45-day window ended,
right,
where a buyer can't open up a claim anymore.
Yeah, it's after 45 days you can't open a claim.
And she says that it didn't fit, which is crazy because she had emailed us before she bought it, and we measured it for her and confirmed it. So it's exactly the size that we said it was.
Right.
You know, like anything, we're always just like, we'll take a return for any
anything.
reason at all. We won't pay the shipping, but you can return it. You'll get a full refund. And then she came back to us and she said, well, I moved to Taiwan, and so can we make another kind of arrangement?
So that to us is a red flag that this person is a scammer.
And so, you know, no drama here.
Yeah.
It took a second to know what to do, and the answer is don't do anything.
Right.
Because we had already told her we would accept the item back and give her a refund, and that's where it stands.
Right.
You know, there's no other kind of arrangement to make. I mean,
yeah.
And now that she's, you know, and we're doing this all through eBay messages, it's up to her now to bring the case to escalate the case.
It. So the way cases work, in case people don't understand now, this is how they work now. If someone wants to, you know, file a claim or open a case, it basically stays at a low level of just messages back and forth. Basically, they say it's called work it out.
eBay doesn't get involved in this.
Yeah,
part.
Nobody gets involved. So either me or the buyer can escalate it to eBay customer service, where they'll read the messages and decide who is correct.
They're like a judge.
Yeah, basically.
So right now it's up to her if she wants to escalate this case and get eBay involved, and which would be crazy for her because eBay will read the correspondence we've had,
right,
see that it's measured it for her, that we've offered to take it back, and eBay it will say send it back if you want
a refund.
And so but she sounds like one of these people who we do not get very often, who is fishing for some kind of weird partial a refund.
Yeah, it's like she wants a partial refund, or she just wants a full refund by basically threatening.
Right, because, you know, I guess, and we've done that before where we'll give a partial refund, but normally that's only if we feel like we have done something wrong,
right,
or they'll send us a photo and the item was damaged somehow, you know, but in this case, we're rock solid, and even if she were to leave us bad feedback, I feel we could easily call eBay and that they would take the feedback off because they've seen that we've done everything right, you know?
Right. Now, that's the good thing about, as we say, calling someone's bluff. We're like, oh, okay, it doesn't fit you, or you don't like it, or whatever. It's like, great, send it back. Not a problem.
Yep. I mean, so that's why it's good to not take these things personally, to be professional, to be our emails are very short and sweet, you know.
To the point.
They don't get into like a lot of explanation. So we haven't heard back from her. It's been 5 days now, so I don't know if she's going to actually keep it going on this, but that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So all that being said, we got our top-rated seller back this week. Our top-rated seller rating.
Status rating.
Yeah, we had lost it after we had taken that big trip to Europe, and we were away for so long, but we sold so much stuff while we were away, and it, you know, wasn't obviously shipped the next day that we lost our status. So it took 3 months for that to cycle through.
So we finally got the top-rated seller back, and I would say our week sales went up, but I don't know if that has anything to do with top-rated seller status.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone who is brand new, you know, eBay will look at your account on the 20th of every month, and then they recertify you, whether or not you're top-rated seller, above standard, or all that stuff. And so if you go to your seller performance page, that's where it tells you what your ratings are. And that takes into account your DSRs and
your feedback,
all that stuff. So, yeah, I honestly don't know if top-rated seller status actually helps it certainly can't hurt. I assume that it gets us higher in the listing search terms, but you know, it's good to have.
So another thing that we had talked about a couple weeks ago was contacting your local newspaper to either buy or have them donate to you end rolls of newsprint paper.
Yeah, I'd heard this on some woman who'd made an eBay a video on, a YouTube. She was talking about her store, and she casually mentioned that she bought these end rolls at her local It's newspaper. So I just went ahead and emailed our local It's newspaper. He knew exactly what I was talking about, and he just said, "Come on by, and I'll have them at the front for you."
And so it was we weighed it, including the core, which is like the paper roll that holds the paper. It weighed 13.5 pounds.
For each one, and we got 2 of them.
We got 2 of them. So it's, as you know, with a newspaper, it's pretty thin paper. So it's a pretty, substantial roll. And I had to pack something the other day, and I used the crap out of it. I was like, this is awesome. I'm so psyched about it.
How long would you think that roll will last you?
I think that roll will last me several months.
A single
one roll. I
Wow.
think so. Well, what I need to do is I need to write the date on it that I started using it, and we can keep track.
Wow. And so, I'm not sure if this would be a regular thing I could do. It's with a guy. I mean, he just gave them to me, but maybe if I offered to buy them, we could always get a regular amount. But that's a really good idea because it's expensive to buy that It's newsprint online. I think it comes in 25-pound packages.
Yeah.
And
if someone, if they're not going to use it or they're just giving it away, and it's a cool way to recycle, some kind of waste.
And being scavengers, the whole point is to have your costs be so low that you just don't have to work as hard because you aren't spending as much. So it's just another thing. We're getting free It's newsprint for several months. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I really do. So I'm going to write the date on it and see how long, this roll lasts.
So if anyone else tries that, we'd love to hear in the blog if you've been successful with that or not.
So basically, you just emailed someone at the newspaper. Who was it?
I emailed a circulation department,
gotcha.
Because they're the ones that handle, mailing out the papers.
Yeah. They're in the next big town over, so we actually went to a big auction that was in that town. So we coordinated it to all be on the same day. So that was...
Yeah, and that was interesting. We've talked about different places to go and buy things, and one place we like to go are auctions. And we kind of have a couple of regular auctions we go to. They're on Friday nights and Saturday nights, and
date
we
night.
always say it's like a date night because it's like,
cheap date night.
It's just like it's total entertainment. You go, there's a bunch of characters, there's food and coffee.
Yeah.
But this past Friday, we went to one during the daytime, and it was much more all business. It was a huge auction. Started at 10 a.m., and it went till 9 o'clock at night.
All day long.
It is constant. So they have a new auctioneer that will come in every couple hours, but they don't take breaks. It's nonstop.
They just go.
And it's like a huge, I can't imagine that it was just a single person, but it's just, I guess they go and clean out houses, and it's just box lots, it's individual items, it's artwork, it's furniture.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was, we actually left about halfway through because it gets tiring. This kind too, because it's not like super upscale. It's where you kind of, big groups of people stand around, boxes of stuff, and the auctioneer's standing there, and you have to bid on it.
Basically, you move around the warehouse with the auctioneer. There's sometimes where the auctions that we go to, they'll do the box lots like that, but then for the more fancy stuff, everybody sits down. But this was, I was getting tired. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I was like, I'm dying.
It's just the quantity, and it was interesting. We definitely see other pickers or
mostly
sellers, but at this one, it was a majority were other people who buy, I guess, for their stores.
Yeah.
And there was fierce competition, and it was expensive.
People were buying stuff for a lot higher than we normally see. Box lots were going for $20, $30. I'm like, I can't get in on any of this stuff because it's just, I don't see anything in there that's worth that much.
Yeah. And it was fun though. We always encourage people to check out auctions because it's a good time,
So one of the cool stories about this auction was there was this a pair of paintings from the 50s, like very like modern, funky paintings. One was like an abstract and one was like this weird, funky portrait. everyone was looking at these. And there's this one guy who was about our age, like a young guy. He was just, I mean, Jay was bidding against him. And it just kept getting higher and higher and higher. And we were like, we're not paying more than $50 for these. Like,
right.
This
I mean,
isn't...
I always have a number in my head of what I know I can sell it for. And I try to make sure my profit's at least 5 times that. And if it gets past that, I'm out, you know.
So he got these great paintings and we were bummed, you know, and about an hour later, we went out to our car to put some stuff away, and we saw him in the parking lot, and he kind of like turned his head towards us. We were kind of grumbling. We're like, oh, there's the guy.
My nemesis.
Yeah, our new nemesis. And he turned his head, and he was like, were you guys bidding on the portrait or the abstract painting? Like, which one did you want? And we were like, we wanted the portrait. He's like, great. I wanted the other one, so I'll sell you the portrait one for like $20. 25. It was $25. So we just had $25 cash. I paid for the painting. I was like,
he was a nice guy.
That's awesome. So it's cool to meet a young person who does the auctions who was like super nice. And he sold us the painting. So we got the painting. One of the things that I packed with that newsprint roll was this huge mid-century modern radio.
It was the highest priced item we sold. It's this week. We sold it for $300.
So this $300, it's funny because I saw another radio just like it on eBay that this guy kept putting up on auction, putting up every week. He puts it on auction and he doesn't sell it.
And each time he puts it on auction, it's going to cost him at least $1. So
he keeps doing this and he puts it up at like $165 or something. And I know he wants $300 for it. So I was like, forget it. I'm putting $299.99 on it and I'm just going to wait. And it sold to someone through global shipping in Russia. So the only issue that I have is the new postal regulations in Russia are very strict. So I'm hoping that it actually gets to them.
But the great thing is it's going through Kentucky. So we just have to send it to Kentucky to eBay's warehouse. And they take it from there. It's on them from there.
To figure out,
So I assume that as long as we get it to Kentucky, it's done.
Yeah, it's up to that global shipping program to figure out how to get it to them or reimburse the customer for it not getting.
I mean,
to
that's
them.
why people grumble about the global shipping program, but that's the positive thing. Like, we don't have to worry about it getting to Russia because that's not part of our its responsibility.
I get it safely to Kentucky,
right?
And so another thing too is I think I've talked to eBay about this before. If that person in Russia has a problem getting it and they leave me negative feedback, I can call eBay and get them to remove that.
Right, because it's not on us. I mean, I can understand because I was also very skeptical. You know, when someone buys something on global shipping program, they're paying for all of their custom fees and import taxes and everything up front. So you can actually see how much that is.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy must have spent $500 on this radio after all the taxes.
He did.
But I've been proven wrong that people will buy it. And maybe it's just sophisticated buyers that understand that these aren't extra fees. These are fees they're going to have to pay anyway. At least now it's all up front. It's not going to, come at them in waves, all these different prices.
And now, so I took a photo of the box and I'll put it on the blog. It was probably one of the, I wouldn't say it was a complicated packing job. It just took me a long time because this radio was 30 inches long and it weighed, just by itself, it weighed like 15 pounds.
And Ryan double packed it. And
I double boxed it.
And we actually went to a U-Haul outlet and bought a $5 box.
Yeah. The good thing was I was going to buy this big ass box from Walmart, but we happened to be going by a U-Haul place and they were willing to sell me a used box that had tape on it for $5 for this massive, it was like 35 inches long.
It's this kind that people put a metal bar in. So
it's a wardrobe box. Yeah. So I had to custom make the box out of that box because it was like too wide or something, but I made it happen. It was crazy. So
you
weighed 32 pounds.
It obviously took a lot of work. Probably ran an hour extra.
Yeah, it was
packing it.
It was about 45 minutes.
But if you think we paid $3 for a radio that sold for $300, It takes a little more work, but that's incredible profit.
It's amazing. So I was glad to do the work, and I hope it gets to him. So,
and we haven't actually talked about. Normally, we say this at the top of the podcast, but we've had a really good week.
Yeah,
we made almost $2,500 this week,
which is huge.
I mean, that's really what we love to see. I mean, if we can make $2,500 in a week. That's incredible.
That's the goal. When we were at last week, I think it was 1,500. That's a little bit low for us. Things were pretty low, so it's nice to bump it up to 2,500.
Yeah, and and we didn't do anything differently. It's this week than the other weeks that had been slow. That's why we always say, people, you can't freak out. It's all about the average you're going to make over its month, and the average, the high weeks and low weeks will average out, and we'll make what we need to make to do what we got to do.
You just got to keep listing. I mean, that's the thing. When I was listing this week, like we said, stuff was selling sometimes overnight. So that's a good feeling when you're like, okay, I'm not doing this for nothing.
Right. And I've been keeping an eye on lately, the number that I post to the blog that I've been keeping an eye on is our per item is profit, or not profit, but yeah, it's gross is profit. So now this week it was almost $45.
So the average price of the item,
right? The average price of the item. So that was very cool to me because when you're working hard and spending a lot of time at listing, it's good to see that average cost per item or sale per item goes up, because it means that you're working, it's less for more money.
Right. I want to mention one funny thing before we answer questions. Some dude that I mailed a baseball hat to opened a PayPal case, not on eBay, a PayPal case, saying he didn't receive it, even though it was marked as delivered. And he even said, I see this is marked as delivered, but I didn't get it, so I want my money back. It was really funny, and, I didn't think it was that funny, but, so I wrote back and I said, the tracking says delivered, check with your post office, check with someone in your house, make sure they didn't get it. So the next day he closes the case, and the reason is he didn't check the mailbox. I'm like, where would you think the mail would go? So I thought that was
He escalated things very, very,
very quickly. I'm like, where do you usually check your mail? So that was funny. Anyway, so that got closed, thank goodness.
Cool. So let's answer the questions that people sent in this week.
We got a lot of questions.
Okay, this first question from your virtual apprentices. He says, or asks, when you decided to make this a full-time business, what steps did you take to make it official? My son and I decided 4 months ago to jump in with both feet full-time. I need structure where he'd rather just list and sell. I think structure is good, although you do also just need to list and sell. So I guess I'm not exactly sure what the specific question is, but the steps we took it was all about the numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing that matters when you're trying to go full time, is that are you making enough at the end of the month to pay all the bills you got to make? Everything in between is it's whatever style you're trying to develop to, as we always say, to build a pipeline. I mean, That's really what we've done over the past 6 years, is we now have a pretty solid pipeline where we can find items out in the world. We put them in one end, and then they get shipped out, and people pay us through PayPal.
I think when you say you need structure, basically for us, what we do is we structure our business by what are the things that each person does and what are you going to do today?
Right. I think that's interesting in the sense of, if you have 2 people in its business, you need to make that choice whether each person kind of finds and will list their own stuff. So where it's like almost 2 eBay stores at one time, or like Ryan and I do.
Yeah.
I do some stuff, like I take photos, Ryan will list, Ryan actually packs too. I mean, so, we each do a part of its business together.
Right. I think those kinds of mini infrastructure there, you just have to figure out, what each person's going to do.
And then the other thing about structure, as we always stress, is having goals. So we try and list 20 things a day. We don't always do it, but that's what the goal is.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have those kind of number goals, because it's all a numbers game, if you're only putting up 10 things a week, I mean,
Right.
you're just not going to sell a whole lot. That's just how it is. It's like on Amazon, we have like it's 50 books up. So I shouldn't expect to sell more than a book a week. I mean, a book a week, I'm thrilled,
Yeah.
If we were to really take this Amazon thing seriously and we had 2,000 things in our Amazon store, I would expect us to sell the kind of numbers that we sell on eBay,
Yeah, and also the number goal is, you deciding how much you want to get in your store and how fast. When I remember when I really buckled down, when I was like, we're not taking any more tech work, we're taking very selective tech work, I just sat at my computer and listed. I wanted to bulk up our numbers, and we had a goal. We were like, we need 1,000 things in our store. That's our goal. Do it.
Yeah, I think that's always a tough thing when I hear from people that have full-time jobs and wanting to do eBay full-time or to make more money on eBay. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. Having a full-time job is good because it's steady income.
Right.
There's probably health insurance, which is important. But then, you're never really going to be able to have a full-time eBay business because I just imagine you just can't put enough time into it. I mean,
Yeah.
We put 30 hours a week to 40 hours a week into our eBay business. It is our full-time job,
We should do like time cards and see how much time we put in. But that's the thing about going full-time. You are having a job now. Like, that is your job. So you work every single day. It's not like it's a fun hobby. It's like you just need to work every day.
That's why I always laugh at the guys, because it seems like it's mainly dudes, these younger guys on YouTube that make these videos about how they buy and sell on Amazon and eBay, and they just make it seem like they're making all this money and that they don't do anything.
They're not doing any work.
I find that I don't quite understand the in-between steps. I find like it's all going to be work. It's all work, It's just whether or not I work at a business for somebody else on their time, or I work the same amount of time for it's myself. It's, there's no in between, really.
And, we always say we take days off and we take, 2-week vacations whenever we feel we want to. So that is different, but we do work our asses off every day because it's our business and we want to do that.
Yeah. So structure's good. I think the structure is about is numbers. How many things are you going to list every day, and what's the amount of money that you need to make every month, and how much money are you making now?
Right.
Okay. The next one is from Ike Boy.
Ike Boy says, a couple of my friends have accused me of being a real lowlife because in their view, I'm buying nice stuff from thrift stores and reselling it on eBay. I'm denying a poor person from buying a nice jacket at the thrift shop. I totally reject this nonsense, of course. I'm not wealthy. I struggle like everyone else. No more middle class, remember? I've been in the same job for over 6 years with a master's degree and only make $10 an hour.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's crazy. My wife has been out of work for 1 year. Am I supposed to feel guilty because they're not savvy enough to make a couple dollars on eBay? My question is, how do you deal with criticisms like this?
So this is a great question. And I mean, number one is the point of Goodwill is not to offer products to poor people. I mean, the point of Goodwill is for anyone to come and buy that stuff, and then they use that as money for, I guess they train
programs. Yeah,
they train people who can't get jobs.
Job training programs.
Church thrift stores too is the same way. They want anyone to come in and buy their stuff. They don't care who it is, and then they take that as money and it funds whatever their soup kitchens or whatever else.
The thrift store that we go to is one of the big ones that we go to is a church thrift store, and what they do is they use the money, either it's from the thrift store or donations, and they help people with electricity and heating bills, and they have a huge soup kitchen, and they donate clothing and furniture to people who need it.
I mean, we definitely have been through that experience where we would be going and we buy in bulk. You know, we are not afraid to get huge shopping carts full of stuff if we think it's good stuff.
Right.
And we would think, we're like buying out the store here.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. There's a price on it. If I don't buy it, someone else is going to buy it. Like, it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's there to be purchased. And the other thing, too, is we always say this. There is so much abundance in this country. I mean, we go to our thrift stores, we see other sellers, and we're sellers ourselves, and we see other people who are buying for themselves, and they get great deals, and there's so much stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
and
It's
and as we've done this, it's more and more. We've learned to you can kind of spot who the other buyers are in
Yeah.
stores or auctions or at yard sales. It's just a way about other scavengers and pickers, like the way that they buy, the things
what
that
they're
they
buying.
ask. Yeah, so. There's a lot of us out there. We're all doing it. It's that being said, we don't really talk about what we do on eBay to our other acquaintances. I mean, someone has to be a really good friend of ours for us to kind of say that we sell on eBay, mainly because number one, most people don't care. I'm not going to volunteer that info because they just don't care.
Well, even when we do volunteer that info, people just kind of look at us and they're like, huh. And then they never ask any more questions.
Well, I think it's hard for anybody else to understand that you could actually sell enough on eBay where you can be, paying all of your bills. Like they just don't. That's why, we're all here in this podcast here. Like all of us, we all understand.
We get it, yeah.
That there's a whole process. There's this whole world you have to build into your life to do this for a living. And, I don't think it's that interesting to other people. They just don't, they don't care.
That's why we made this podcast, basically.
But I've never had anyone call me a lowlife or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just maybe I've thought that of it's myself because, I went to college. I'm thinking like, am I a lowlife because I'm now making a living selling old shoes on eBay? I mean,
Someone needs those old shoes.
I'm educated. I should have some fancy job, but I think I'm old enough too, and I've been through those jobs where I realize like, ugh.
No.
I feel like I wasted a lot of time
in an office
trying to accomplish something that I realized I never wanted to do in the first place. I didn't want those kind of jobs. God, I just think of all the training I went through to work at that.
Or, the other thing too is, we both chose career paths that were proper for what we studied in college in the tech and video world. And still those jobs were like, oh, these jobs have no freedom, no independence. I thought they might,
and they had no security.
Yeah, no security. You could be let go at any moment. I mean.
So anyway, I think we've kind of been through everything this guy is asking about, and we've been through the other side. So
yeah,
feel good about it yourself and keep listening.
I just don't listen to those people, or if they are saying that, just don't discuss these things with them. They don't get it clearly. Okay, so the next question is from Angie Pangie, and they ask, do you take down your holiday type items after holidays are over and save them to relist the following year, or do you just leave them up in your eBay store? I have Christmas ornaments and sweaters that I'm still debating on which route to take them. My answer is I never take anything down.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a waste of time.
I don't know. I guess that it might make sense to take Christmas stuff down during the year. But honestly, it's like once you start getting so much in your inventory, it's like, how would we keep track of that stuff?
Yeah.
And then we'd have to remember, like, are people going to start buying early in August? I mean, like, when do you put it back up? Like we always say, a listing costs for buy it now are so cheap.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a store subscription, it's so cheap that it's just not worth the effort to try and manage your stuff.
I mean, I have stuff that can be considered Christmassy or whatever holiday, Thanksgiving, but could be used year round, like certain kind of candle holders and stuff. I just leave that stuff up. I don't think it's worth it to mark it till next year and write a whole new listing. Like, ugh, no.
And, we don't have whole lot of holiday stuff, so I'm not really sure, how well that stuff sells during the year. But I'm really surprised, it'll be like during the summertime where we sell the weirdest stuff that I would never think someone would. Like sweaters to people in America.
In the South.
In the summertime.
During a heat wave.
Right. So you just never know. I mean, maybe you would be selling to the people who they're really into that stuff and they're thinking about it throughout the whole year. So.
Yeah, I see. That's good. Okay, so the next question is from the number 2 Cruz. How long do you let an item sit before marking them down? Do you have an average length that you're items sit in the store. We always talk about this.
Yeah, so we've talked about that. I mean, we never mark things down.
We hardly ever mark things down unless I see something, in particular when I'm just looking around our store thinking, you know what? I'm going to take $20 off that because I mispriced that.
Well, every so often, we always try and mark things higher and then make offer on it. And sometimes, we'll just think, you know what, we just really were shooting for the moon on that one. There aren't a lot of people watching it after a while, and so we'll bring it down a little bit. We aren't price slashing, like we don't take $20 items and then make them $8 items.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about, we'll take, $200 items and make them $180 items, that kind of thing.
With make offer.
And then the average length of items in our store, I think everything sells within 12 months.
Yeah, I really do. I think we have full store turnover in 12 months. I mean, there are items here and there that I'm like, oh my God, I've had this thing forever. It's just an anomaly. But I'll look through old folders of stuff from last year. I have an archive of folders, and I'm like, oh my God, all that stuff is gone. I don't even remember selling that,
I mean, and that's the thing too about when you start building up a big inventory, you're a listing just to keep up with keeping your inventory numbers up. So like this week we sold 58 items. In our store is only 3 items more. So Ryan is listed over 60 items. So, but we're about the same as we were.
Yeah. So I evened us out, which is great. I would love to sell the amount we list, that's awesome. So Barry, I guess this was Barry who asked this. He also asked, have you ever caught yourself listing an item twice? I keep very good track of the stuff that I know has already been listed. The times that I've made a mistake is when you're listing something similar to something else that had like quantity 2 or 3. Maybe you had 3 of the same jackets that you bought in bulk, and you're like, oh, I'm going to list a similar one that I only have 1 of, and you forget to change the quantity, which is, eBay just does not make it obvious that you've listed more than 1 quantity. I think it's a poor system in that respect.
And that's also why it's important as far as inventories, when you're dealing with your own inventory. We have a very clear separation between the stuff that needs to be put up and the stuff that's already been put up online. So,
yes,
we do not keep this stuff very close or mixed in together. So that's also probably would be helpful.
Right, exactly. So we have an update from Debbie from California, who asked us the question last week about selling something on eBay in multiple boxes. Like eBay does not give you a very good, actually it gives you no options. Say you had like a lot of like 100 books. For example, you're not going to be able to put 100 books in a box because your box will break. So you'd have to break it up into like 3 or 4 boxes. Well, eBay doesn't give you that option to say box number 1 weighs this, box number 2 weighs this. So we kind of talked about how to do that. So she said the item that she sold that was in several boxes actually sold via the global shipping program, which is a weird thing because what you have to do is get all those boxes to Kentucky warehouse, and they need to understand that all those boxes are going to the same person. So that's a weird anomaly, and I don't know how that would work unless I would think that you would need to call eBay and say, look, these boxes going to Japan or whatever are in 3 different boxes, and they all have the same person's name on them, Maybe you could write the item number on each box or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how that would
work.
That's
a tough one. I feel like eBay doesn't do well with stuff like that. So I'd be like, you'd have to cancel the purchase and make the buyer buy again, but not through the global shipping program.
Yeah, something like that. So I don't know, Debbie, I'd love to hear from you. Did you call eBay? What happened? That's something I've never dealt with. So.
Or if somebody else has dealt with that, hit the blog and,
Yeah, let's talk about it because that's a really weird, great question.
Okay, so Brad asks, on your taxes, does your web hosting come out as an expense? I was wondering about this since I am using space on my server for image hosting and was thinking it would be considered an expense. Yeah, Yes, absolutely. Anything we use in our eBay business is an expense. Yep. So Yeah, eBay hosting image hosting
Yep.
on our server. It's definitely one of those
Yep,
things.
I have a server with a ton, thousands of photos on it, and I pay, however much I pay every year, and that is absolutely an expense. Yes.
And some people love to do their own taxes, like they really get into it and they do a good job, and you'll save money doing that. We have chosen, again, we just got a local accountant. I mean, not in H&R Block, but just, every town will have just
a CPA,
some guy or a lady who's a CPA, and they just set up a small tax accounting business. Yeah. Those people are great because they'll work with you personally, and these are great questions to ask them. The one reason why we use an accountant is just because I'm always afraid I'm not going to do my taxes right, or I'm going to cross a red line that's going to be a flag for the IRS. The great thing about having, a good, honest accountant is that they'll help structure everything to make it, they know what the red flags are.
Right. Yeah, I think that, if you have an accountant, the great thing about them is you can have a list of things that you use in your business and say, is this deductible? In what way is this deductible? So they'll know what percentages you can take for certain things. Some things like hosting, like you're asking for, that's like a total 100% expense. So.
Right. And, this is what wealthy people do. They have teams of accountants, and that's how they end up not paying a lot. That's why they pay a small percentage of their income, because they can get around all this stuff. So we might as well use it too. I mean, it's unfortunate that the tax system in America is so intricate, but all those rules are there for people to take advantage of. So don't overlook those things.
The next one is from the Chronicler, and they said, I just had a vintage bamboo flute sell, which was my first international sale. Very good. And I felt both good and bad about it. I picked it up for $1 and had no idea what to put the price on it. I just picked $30 plus shipping, and less than 4 hours later it was sold. I was happy, but then had the sinking feeling that I had way underpriced it. Do you have an item that sticks out in your mind that you sold and might have been underpriced and gave you that sinking feeling? Number one, I'll say this. You have to do your research. If you didn't know what price it was, you should have known, because you should have looked it up. But, however, if you found it and you're like, there isn't really anything like this, I'm just going to take a guess. Right. That's fine.
I mean, number one, just because something sells right away doesn't mean it was underpriced. It just might mean it was the right price. If you found the right person and it was a done deal. I mean, we often sell things the same day we list items. We often don't feel bad about it because, like Ryan said, we've done its research and see that, okay, these kind of things sell for about this price. We're going to be good with that. Now, if you have something that you cannot find anywhere, that's when we really use it's make offer. If we really feel something's really special, but we can't find it anywhere, there's no other comparable prices, that's when we throw crazy prices on it.
And do make an offer.
And do make offers. So that way, if it's something people want, they'll start sending you offers. And by the offers, you'll kind of see, oh, I put it up for $300. Everyone's offering $175. That's probably
the right price. So I'm going to take that. Yeah, exactly. So.
But then those are the things, too, where if we have something that we guessed at $300 and it hasn't sold for 6 months, that's when we'll kind of go in and be like, we probably were shooting for the moon.
Yeah, let's do better research, or let's bring it down and make an offer on it.
I wouldn't feel bad. I feel great. If you sold an item, that's great.
And the other thing, too, is about that, you might have been the only seller that shipped internationally. So maybe that was an item that someone, wherever you sold it to, was like, great, finally, I can actually get this shipped to me.
Yeah.
So that might have been one of the reasons.
Okay, the next one is from Tony. Our area has a lot of estate sales. Is it better to go on the first day when the choices are better, but you pay full asking price, or wait until the last day when it's been picked over, but they're willing to bargain, typically, half price? Okay, good. It's question.
Go both times.
For those of you that haven't been to estate sales, this is when someone's mother dies and the children will hire this local company to come in, and basically they're doing like a yard sale.
Yeah,
but
in
everything in the house sells. It's really kind of exciting, actually.
Yeah, it's cool. It's fun.
You get to go through someone's house, and you can go through their bathroom and kitchen, and you can just grab everything. I mean, like Tony says, like Ryan says, we would go both days if you can.
Yeah.
Because you want to go on the first day, and you want to get the best stuff, even if you're paying full price for it. But then, the last day is great too, because you never know what people don't buy.
Right. Like I'll for estate sales, and sometimes even at like thrift stores and stuff, like in our local thrift stores, I'll see stuff that I'm like, yeah, I want that, but it's priced a little bit too high. And if no one else wants it, I'll come back in a couple of days when it's half off. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you want to get the stuff that you're like, that is primo. I want that. And sometimes at estate sales, they might not love this, but they might bargain with you. If you're like, would you take 20 for this? See if they'll wiggle on the price, because sometimes they will.
We're always into bundling. We love to go and get armloads full of stuff, put it on the table in front of the person who we pay. And that's when it starts to get kind of confusing for them. And that's when we can start to just throw out a price, or they're willing to make deals even on the first day.
Yeah, that's true. So if there's an estate sale near you and you're able to get to it on both days or all 3 days, you should do it.
Yeah, I mean, we actually have a local store where they do estate sales, and then they bring everything they don't sell at the estate sale. They sell
to the store,
in the store. I mean, we go there almost
every day.
I mean, anytime we're in town, sometimes
almost every
sometimes
day.
It's every day, every other day, and we always walk out with bagfuls of stuff because there's always
something
stuff.
It's so funny. Like if we skip a couple days, they're like, "Where have you guys been?" It's really funny. It's cute. Okay, so Mr. Atari asked to warn people about the terms in best offer. I accepted a best offer without carefully reviewing the terms, and the non-buyer lowballed my listing and added free shipping in the terms. I missed that part and then called eBay and asked what my options were, and of course they said, you have to open a case and cancel the transaction. So it is easy to miss the terms. Like, it's weird. There's a little thing where people can be like, plus no shipping. And you can often miss that.
All of us, I think every single person who is sold on eBay with its make offer has probably dealt with this. Because we'll get an offer on our phone and we're like, oh, cool. They, it's kind of a low price, but we'll accept it. And then we realize they had free shipping on it. Very often, we'll just eat it just because we made it's a mistake. But I think you can, like eBay said, you can open up a case and you can just cancel the transaction. I don't know if the buyer can actually leave you bad feedback or not, but
if they don't pay, I think they can't leave you feedback if they haven't paid for it.
But I know that a buyer can send you an offer and then they can pull that offer. So I think there's it's wiggle room there. I think the main thing is I mean, once that happened to us, we now, anytime we get an offer, we just make sure they didn't put any kind of terms in there.
Yeah, and if they did put terms that we don't agree with, we'll usually counter with their price and say no free shipping.
Right.
We'll take $35 for this, but we're not going to give you free shipping.
And it's most people are, oh, that's cool.
That's fine.
I mean,
whatever.
And it's funny, those terms that people send, that's where we were talking, it's last week, where a lot of people send an offer in, and then in those terms they say things like, I wouldn't pay more for this because it's really junky, or they try and do that thing where they
insult your item.
Insult the item, thinking we're going to accept their offer. And that's when I'm always like,
decline.
Or I'll decline it, and you can do like put some words in there. I'll decline it, and I'll just be like, good luck finding this someplace else,
That's always fun. You're like, see ya. Okay, so Charles says, I think it's worth discussing how we phrase customer service messages. My day job is working in a retail store. Oh boy. Where we're trained to phrase things with certain wording when taking customer complaints. For instance, on eBay, I issued a partial return to a customer and sent them a message saying that I did that. Instead of saying, here's the refund you asked for, I say, you'll be happy to know, this is great. I love it. It's like PR speak. You'll be happy to know I issued the $14 as requested, or something like that. Do you guys have pre-written letters that you send to potentially angry customers? And that was from Charles.
So
yes.
I've got two ideas on this. Now, one is, I agree. We do have kind of, it's written.
Yeah.
It's messages for things we always get,
Yeah. Returns, we're like, no problem, send it back. This is our address. Once we get it, we'll issue a refund via PayPal.
I always encourage people who are running their little independent businesses. Yeah, I always kind of cringe when I hear those kind of PR customer service messages. Like, it's when I call some company, talking to the customer service people, you can tell that they're just reading off of a script, and and they'll end up things like, is there anything else I can do for you today? Did I meet all of your needs? I'm just like, are you a robot? This is crazy. So I encourage people to make it sound human.
Right. But you should make it sound professional, and you should be efficient. Like, you shouldn't be so casual that you're like, whatever, dude, like that. But you should be able to, talk to people like you're not just a pre-recorded like call center or something. So we think that it is good to phrase things certain ways, but you don't want your customers to think that you're like shoes.com or whatever, you know?
Or maybe you do. But being a professional is good, but I just encourage people, because we do it. It's just also, we just have our own style. We have our own way of doing things. But that's a good idea.
Okay, so this is probably my favorite name of a store. Now I have to look up our store. It's Kim from Nickels and Diamonds.
All right.
Basically, you have to say it like you're from Dallas.
Yeah, okay.
Nickels and Diamonds. Okay, and Kim says, I started using eBay's GoDaddy's outright. So it's GoDaddy bookkeeping. Can you share with me how you might handle this situation? Someone gave us a lot of items they want to sell, so it's like commission. Currently, we take the total price of sale plus shipping and subtract the final value fee, PayPal fee, and the shipping. Then, per their agreement, I send them 70%. So how would you show that 70% to be subtractive? So this is what I would say. So you're paying someone that 70%. So I'm assuming you're doing it out of PayPal, because that's where the money is. So that PayPal transaction is going to show up in GoDaddy, and you're going to categorize that as an expense.
Inventory.
Yeah, an inventory expense that you paid as commission. And that's something you would take off your taxes, because you didn't make that 70%. You paid that out to someone as a commission. So you would categorize that as commission. And again, you should have an accountant, and you should talk to your accountant. How should I label this as a tax expense?
But I would also just make sure, and again, we are not tax experts, but we'll just give you our ideas on this. You should also, with this person you're getting this inventory from, write out an invoice for everything. Right. So that way you have a record of what you paid them for the item. Because that's really how I see it. I mean, we talked about it. We hate consignment. Like, when people ask us to sell things for them, we're always like, no way. Because honestly, if you're giving them 70% of that sale,
that's not very much.
I hope it's family or something, and you're just doing them a favor. I just can't imagine doing all the work and they get 70% of the profit. That just doesn't seem like. We did take some artwork from a friend of ours, but we did 50% after all the fees.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of cringe at that a little bit, but we thought his stuff was cool, and we thought it'd be.
We hope it'll sell for really high.
And if we can sell things for $500 and we make $250, that's pretty good. But it took me 2 weeks to take pictures of everything, and we still need to list it all. It's a lot of packing because it's weird shapes. I mean, that's not really answering your question about how you label it, but might help you think about those kind of deals in the future.
Yeah, and also like we said, always get an accountant, or go into an accountant, ask for some advice, and maybe that'll become your accountant.
And honestly, I think I saw someone write on the blog about this. I think a better way to do it would be to buy the stuff outright from them. So if they want to do consignment, look at what they want to sell, and then just say, well, how about I just give you X amount for that whole bundle?
Yeah.
and then you keep its profit, and then it's really easy to expense. Then it really is just, paying for inventory.
In inventory, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's our What's Happening this week.
Yep.
And coming up next, we have a very exciting interview with a listener who's also a postal carrier.
And an eBay seller.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the hat trick of interviews. We've really been trying to find someone that works for the Postal Service that we can ask its questions, and he's a really cool guy.
Yeah, so listen to our next podcast. His name is Matt. It's a great interview. We had a lot of fun talking to him, so check it out.
See ya.
Bye.